The writer's strike is over, we hope. Doctor Who's 60th anniversary trailer has been released. A reboot of The Office dares to break ground. And Jake Gyllenhaal was almost Batman? All that and more this week on Multiverse News. Welcome to Multiverse News, your one-stop shop for information about all your favorite fictional universes. My name is Matthew Carroll, and on the panel today with me, I have Mr. Jay Sisson from Commute the Podcast. What's up, Jay?
Not too much. Happy to be here with you guys. Got the band back together after a couple weeks. It's a good feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Like soaking into a warm bath. Haley Hobbs from Source Pages. So. What's going on?
Hello. I don't take baths.
What? Oh, okay, who takes baths here? I mean, like,
not me.
First, Jay Scotty from Animation Deliberation. Jay Scotty, welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me back. Hygiene routine aside, I'm glad that we here at Stranded Panda could come to an agreement, because the reason I wasn't here last week was because I was striking. So, good to be back and working again.
He got the contract, he's ready to roll.
All right, I dig it. So I don't bathe to get clean. That's ridiculous.
It's just pamper. It's me time.
It's me time. No, nobody. Do you guys bathe for me time?
No, I sit on the couch, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, my version of me time is alone in my basement watching TV uninterrupted.
Yeah.
Not simmering in lukewarm water.
In my own filth.
I had like a running injury a couple years ago, and somebody was like, you should like get in the bath and use like Epsom salt or whatever. So I was like, all right, it seems weird, but I'll do it. And I got in it, and I was just sweaty the whole time. Like, I was just like, this is so miserable. Like, I don't want to be in this at all. And so I have not done it since.
Yeah,
I was sweating like crazy.
Then it's
totally
an
miserable.
oxymoron.
You do need good ventilation. That is important to a good bath. But like, just the soaking in the warm bath part is so nice. And I also watch TV during that. Like, put on a good show on my phone or whatever, and like lean. Oh no, Jay Scotty.
Oh, Scotty.
No, he went to take a bath.
He was like, "This sounds really nice."
I can't say I got to go do this.
I described how wonderful bathing was, and we lost Jay Scotty before the first story. That's a bummer. All right. So Jay Scotty, you're back. How was your bath?
It was a first for me. I decided to take a bath for relaxation purposes rather than hygiene purposes, and I recommend it.
Yeah, I'm glad. I do recommend in the future not doing it right in the middle of the show. But but it's cool, man.
Simmer on your own time, man.
Big bath guy now. This is gonna be part of my personality now.
What are baths other than giant crock pots?
Okay. Yep. Let's make it a Jay Scotty stew.
Yes.
But you're the soup. Yeah, you're the soup.
You're the soup.
Right.
On the note of cannibalism.
All right, well, let's move on to our first story today.
Probably should.
Good news. As of Sunday, the Writers Guild reached a tentative agreement with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers to end its strike after nearly 5 months. The parties finalized the framework of the deal Sunday when they were able to untangle their stalemate over AI and writing room staffing levels. This is welcome news to everyone involved, no doubt, and hopefully means the actors' strike will soon follow suit. What do we have to say about this near historic length of time this writers' strike persisted?
Yeah, this is great news. I think at this point, it's probably a almost 0% chance that it doesn't get voted through by the guild. That is the last step that needs to happen, but you already have the guild leadership coming out and saying this is a great deal and we really support this. So I don't think there'll be any problem there. I would expect, we're recording this on Tuesday night, I would expect at some point this week, tomorrow through Friday, this will be voted through and finally official. Now, the actors' strike, I think, will move a lot quicker after this. There are still things that need to be worked out specifically for the actors, but this does give them like the shoulders to build on, right? Mm-hmm. To kind of take this deal and then move into more specific things that the actors are requesting. So little things will have to be worked out for actors, like the AI copying someone's likeness for extras. Like that has to be an actor specific thing. A big thing was the self-taped auditions thing too. Like, I don't know how much we've talked about it on this show, but during COVID, the whole thing was self-taped auditions. You'd send in these taped auditions. Well, the problem was that's very expensive to do right. You have to get a camera, you have to have somebody working the camera, then you do hair, makeup, somebody delivering the lines, all these things. Well, actors are kind of looking at that and saying, this is kind of unfair that you're still expecting us to send in self-taped auditions. It's giving people an unfair advantage who maybe have a little bit more money on the side to be able to fund self-taped auditions. So that's a big part of it too. So things like that specifically need to be worked out, but I've already seen news that SAG-AFTRA is going to come back to the table as soon as this week or this weekend to start negotiating again. So I think you're going to see that move a lot faster, especially now. So at this point, I think just moving forward, there definitely has to be a little bit of healing happen in Hollywood over this, and I don't know what that's going to look like. There were a lot of things said during the writer's strike, especially from some studio execs about we want it to get as bad to where you have to sell your house and things like that, and that's not a good look now when you have to go back to work with these people. So you have that aspect to it. Also, the union of workers who works on these sets, like lighting and electricians and all like the people who make this thing run, they have their own union. They are not happy right now with the writers, the actors, the studios, with anyone, because they lost a lot of money during this time because all of these productions were shut down. So, with all that being said, it is good news, but there are still obviously the little hurdles, but then I think there are some bigger hurdles on the horizon. Like, how does this industry start to heal and come back together and continue to work together after really a kind of a fracturing thing? And that content gap that we keep talking about, like, that is still coming. This was a long gap. I mean, we're talking 5 months. We're going to feel that over the course of the next year. I would say we probably won't start to feel like normal Hollywood until like next summer. So we still got a lot of fallout here to happen. But yeah, like you said at the top, it is good news ultimately.
It's interesting you talk about the content gap and the universes we all love, and like Marvel, Star Wars, these things that we all follow. It does feel like they were all kind of poised to try to start spreading things out anyway. So I'm wondering if this will sort of provide that concept of spreading content out, especially Marvel, will provide them some cover in the fact that they're just missing content. We're missing content, but we kind of had a lot front loaded that we were planning to release, and now they're going to be able to space that out.
Yeah.
There's no denying that this is, good news. It's probably the best news that we've gotten since these strikes started. I think it's important to emphasize that it's not over yet. This is just a tentative agreement. So I feel like a lot of the headlines and a lot of the reactions have been like, oh, the strike's over, it's finally over, and not quite. Like you mentioned, the likelihood that it doesn't get ratified or approved is highly unlikely. So for all intents and purposes, it seems like it's a done deal. But we're not at the end of the road or the struggle, because while I do have some optimism and hope that this resolution and the positive momentum will see the SAG-AFTRA strike be expedited and find a resolution that much faster, I do think you're going to find that a lot of these writers are going to be continuing to strike, continuing to be on the picket lines in solidarity with the actors who striked right alongside them. So in terms of the content that we're going to see return, much like when the writer's strike started, late night talk shows were the first thing we saw kind of immediately go away. Those are going to be the first things that we start to see come back. So while we might not get the scripted content that we tend to be the biggest fans of and are looking forward to, at least there is, seeming to be a light at the end of the tunnel, and at least we can have some platform to, talk about some of these upcoming properties, even if the actors can't promote it themselves forthright.
That's a great call. I can't wait for Seth Meyers to come back. It's like my favorite late night thing. Love that show.
I don't really have anything to add that you three haven't already said. I think that we will continue to feel the effects. And yet, at the same time, it does seem like there's still this kind of deluge of content coming out. And I realize it's stuff that's already been in the can for a while, but it doesn't seem like we've really had a slowdown. We've had some things pushed that we haven't seen yet, but maybe it's giving a spotlight to some projects that would have gotten lost, perhaps. If there has to be any kind of silver lining, I'd say that's it. We're going to talk about all kinds of things in the lightning round, especially that are coming up. So I do hope they ratify it, and I hope everybody is going to get what they need and what they deserve.
Absolutely. Have they released the details?
No, not yet.
haven't.
I don't think we'll get the. We're recording this Tuesday night. Like, if you're listening to this Wednesday afternoon, there's a fairly good chance that they've ratified it and the details have been put out. I kind of expect that to happen every day, any moment. And when they finally ratify the deal, I think that's where we'll start to see the details.
Right.
But it does seem like at least the guild, like, they're coming out and being like, we did great, we won, this is a deal that we wanted. So it does seem like a lot of those core issues that they were really pushing were addressed in some way. I think the AI is one we talk about a lot, but really like writer staffing, like how many writers in a room, that was a big sticking point. Like, studios wanted it as little as possible, like one writer, just hammering out a story, whereas writers will tell you, like, that does not get good content. You want multiple writers in a room pitching ideas, bouncing stuff back and forth, like writing different characters, different perspectives, and that was a big sticking point. So I kind of expect that that'll be a big haul point of, like, we got job security for writers type thing. But we'll see.
I haven't heard, like you said, the details aren't released yet, but like I've just been hearing that the response from the writers seems to be that they won, and the response from the industry folks have put out very simple statements of, we have reached a tentative agreement. Like, it's like very simple, like, like stuff like that these organizations, there's like, they don't seem nearly as excited to be possibly returning as the writers do. So I hope that means really good things for the writers, and that they were able to win what they deserve, and I'm excited for them.
So on the one side, you've got a moment of victory. On the other side, you have begrudging acceptance.
Yeah, as you often do. Up next, the first trailer for the upcoming 3-episode Doctor Who 60th anniversary special has premiered to excited Whovians everywhere, including this Whovian. The trailer features David Tennant portraying a reincarnation of the 10th Doctor, who reunites with his companion Donna Noble, played by Catherine Tate, as well as Jemma Redgrave, reprising her role as Kate Lethbridge-Stewart, and Neil Patrick Harris will play the Toymaker, an all-powerful villain who appeared in 1966 for the first time. We also get a short glimpse of the new 15th Doctor, played by Rwandan-Scottish actor Ncuti Gatwa. The special series begins streaming in November. Who's ready to jump in the TARDIS and enjoy the world of Doctor Who?
So I'll come right out and say, like, I don't know if I identify as a Whovian. I do respect Doctor Who, and I've seen a handful of Doctor Who episodes, and I've always had friends that really enjoy Doctor Who, and I've always enjoyed the episodes that I've experienced in their company. And I it's kind of on the list. It's been going for 60 years, so there's so much to go back and watch. It kind of seems like a monumental task. But yeah, 60 years is such an achievement and such a testament. So the fact that, like, the show gets to celebrate in this way by bringing back so many of its celebrated casts. I know David Tennant is a lot of people's favorite Doctor, and he's just a wonderful performer. I love him in everything I've seen him in, including the episodes of Doctor Who that I've seen. But Neil Patrick Harris, absolute talent. The fact that he's going to get to play, like, a villain and be a little maniacal, I think he's perfect for the world of Doctor Who. And then I guess the last point that I want to touch on here is the new Doctor that we're getting, who I guess is the 15th Doctor at this point. That's insane. But yeah, the fact that we have Ncuti Gatwa playing the role, I only recognize this performer from his recent casting in Barbie, where he played one of the versions of Ken. But I do know that he's the first person of color, as well as the first queer or member of the LGBTQ community that will be portraying a Doctor. So definitely a good get there. Nice to get that representation, and nice to see a fandom that is celebrated by so many people from all across the world, that the diversity and the representation continues to be such a factor here.
One of the things about Doctor Who is that it has a very distinct look and feel when you're watching the episodes, and I love that they haven't tried to move away from that at all. So, like, when you're watching it, the effects maybe look a little like you can see them, kind of a thing, but that's part of the charm of the show, and it's kind of what makes it its thing. And the Neil Patrick Harris casting was the swing that I wasn't expecting, and I really loved him in the trailer. And yeah, echo all the things about David Tennant. Just the best.
Yeah, I am a Whovian. I'm big time love Doctor Who. I've seen a lot of the newer stuff and some of the older stuff, and I really am excited to see David Tennant's my favorite Doctor. He is the one that like really settled me in as a Whovian, and I'm just really excited to see him return. I was shocked by his return, and I'm really excited that that he's coming back. And I'm a little no shade. Donna Noble is a wonderful character, but she's not my favorite companion. But like a lot of people, that they love their relationship, and it's a great relationship. But like she was never my favorite companion. So they've done a few things where like she came back for a Christmas special once, and then they like she's coming back for this as the companion. And I'm like, I liked a lot of his companions more than her, and so it's just kind of funny. I think they love working together. They've done a lot of like charity events and stuff, and they're always together. So it seems like they have a great relationship. And so I just love David Tennant, and like I'm just all on board for this. I think one thing I know, just to say something, responding to you, Haley. Like I thought this, they have kept a very classic look to Doctor Who throughout the entirety of, forever. But I will say, this trailer looks a lot more cinematic than we're used to in the Doctor Who universe. It looks very, very like a lot of drone shots of over cities and out of helicopters
Definitely.
and stuff that like doesn't normally happen. Also, they straight up go to Avengers Tower, right, everybody?
Yeah. Specifically, the effects to me are very, just very distinctly Doctor Who, I guess.
Yes, they generally are. I totally agree with you. I just think this trailer is trying to elevate it a little bit, trying to do something a little different. So
Sure. 60 years, it deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely. They had a 50-year celebration that also did some amazing stuff. They brought in 3 different doctors and brought them all together to do some cool stuff in like a timey-wimey, they're existing at the same time sort of situation. That was a lot of fun.
Was Peter Capaldi a part of that?
Yes.
That's insane to me, the fact that was 10 years ago. I remember when Peter Capaldi became the new Doctor.
I'm sorry, he was not part of that. That was right before Peter Capaldi.
I gotcha, okay.
Peter Capaldi was kind of, his Doctor was birthed like the next season or something like that. So, was regenerated. I don't know why I said birthed. It was a turn of phrase, but I realized people who don't know Doctor Who might think that's like a Doctor Who thing. He was birthed. No, like he regenerated into Capaldi like a season later, I believe.
Gotcha.
Waterfall Angel says he did appear in it.
Oh, was
They
he
just
in
didn't show his face.
Oh, that's
and you call yourself a Whovian, get out of here.
That doesn't count.
Yeah, if his face isn't on it, if it's not on screen, it didn't happen.
That's like the Superman thing where they showed Superman from the head down or whatever, like 2 or 3 times throughout the DC extended universe. It's like, that doesn't count. It's not a cameo.
One of my favorite weird trivia things is that Peter Capaldi was a Doctor Who fan growing up, like a really big Doctor Who fan. And so was his classmate and bandmate, and I'm blanking on the guy's name. He was a late night host who had all the puppets and the skeleton and the weird horse. Nobody?
Oh.
You know what
I know who you're talking about, but I'm blanking on his name as well.
The big snake cup? Crap. Come on.
Craig Ferguson?
Yes, thank you. Craig Ferguson.
Late night host with horse. Thanks, Google.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you, Google. I knew it would be quick.
Fellow Scotsman.
Yeah, they were apparently close friends in like high school, and were in a band together and stuff in high school.
Oh, right.
And like they were big Doctor Who fans, and then like years later, he's getting like, I don't know, it's just neat like watching that all happen, and Craig Ferguson talking about his friend who loved Doctor Who getting to be Doctor Who, like 45 years later or whatever. It's just kind of a wild, like being that old and like, because he was an older Doctor compared to what they'd been doing lately, and being that old and having loved it for that long, and and having your friend be a guy who could interview you about it, and having like, we used to geek out about this, I'm doing it now. Like, it was such a cool thing. Neat to hear them talk about it. Okay, up next. For reasons unknown to many, a reboot of the US version of The Office is rumored to be in the works. Original creator Greg Daniels is reportedly returning and has previously hinted at bringing the show back, but with different actors in the roles. Daniels has also been quoted as saying he envisioned it as a, quote, extension of the universe, but I don't know if that would be something people want. End quote. What feedback do we have to place in the Dunder Mifflin office suggestion box?
Okay, I know you guys want me to come out swinging. I know you put me on this show to like try to set me up and watch me fall.
What? Who
Come on
does?
now.
You tried to do it with Chris Evans, and you're trying to do it now. I think this is the main reason I think this is really bad is the recency of it. Like, The Office didn't go off of air that long ago, and I just think it's too close, right? The US version was already a remake, or however you want to say it, of the British version of The Office. And depending on your proclivities, you like it better or not. But it is just a really, really, really beloved network television series. And because it's network television, it kind of holds this place and time that a lot of things don't anymore. And so I don't like it at all. However, I have listened to podcasts and stuff where they'll go through the jokes and they're like, oh, you couldn't do that these days and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, well, I get it. I know what you're saying. Yeah, some of the stuff was not PC. Michael Scott was not PC. That was part of his character. And if that's the reason, like, why they want to redo it, I don't agree with that either, because this was a thing made of its time and it just is what it is. It's like, do you watch Gone with the Wind and you want to remake that because Rhett Butler smacks Scarlett O'Hara? Like, yeah, it's not great, but damn, what are you going to do? It was the 30s. So, I don't know.
But damn, what are you going to do?
I feel like it's silly to be talking about it at this point in time. That show went off the air, like, was it 10 years ago? Ish.
It sounds about right.
Yeah,
2012, right?
13.
That's pretty soon to
2013,
be,
the last
quote,
episode aired.
rebooting something, even if he wants to make it like an extended universe. I don't know. Also, like, you kind of did that with Parks and Recreation, and then it became kind of its own show, very different from The Office. I don't know. I'm like...
Parks and Rec wasn't actually connected, though, right?
No,
Like,
it wasn't.
in
But they
universe.
tried to spin it off, like, in the same style.
Oh, it's
and
very
it just
much the
didn't
same
take.
style.
Yeah.
You have Rashida Jones playing characters on both shows.
You do
That's what I
have
kind of
it's the Rashida Jones verse. Like, let's do that. No, let's not. I don't know.
After she was testified in the murder case of, what was it, the Pawnee Strangler or something like that?
Oh, the
Scranton
Strangler.
Strangler.
Pawnee. Sorry, I got
Pawnee
confused.
Strangler. That's the connecting tissue.
Yeah.
They both had stranglers. I don't know. We've had some strong feelings about reboots of other things. I have strong feelings about this one.
Yeah, it is a time capsule, like, if you watch it, and I think a lot of especially the earlier seasons really do hold up in terms of humor. I think they're very rewatchable, but if you watch them, they do feel very dated. Even, like, just the way an office functions 10 years ago is completely different than the way an office functions now, with remote work and Zoom and working from home, and just, like, the way that a modern office runs, it in no way mirrors what they were showing on that show. So to reboot it would have to, I think, capture that. It would have to capture the now in the same way that the old one captured the then. I think from a standpoint, I do see both sides of it. I was a big fan of The Office. I watched it from the very beginning. I watched it as it dropped. I felt like it had such a strange evolution, because for the first few seasons it got better and better. I feel like by the time you hit season 5, it was still really, really interesting. The plot lines were good, the jokes were good, but at some point, at least for me, it did start to take some weird turns and make some very strange choices in how it was developing characters and plot lines and everything. And to me, like, I'm trying to think about a reboot, and I do think that there is an appetite for that style of show still, and the evidence for that is that show Abbott Elementary. I don't know if you've ever watched that, but it's essentially very Office style. It's like a docuseries. It's the whole looking at the camera, Jim Halpert style, breaking the fourth wall, like side interviews in between scenes to add humor, and that's an extremely popular show. It was a big Emmy winner, and so I think there may still be an appetite for that type of show, but I don't know what you do with this. I don't know if you put it on cable. I don't know if you put it on streaming. Like, I don't know what that looks like either, because that show everything hit at the right time, and everybody had an appetite for it when it was on air. So with all that being said, the vision's got to be different to draw me in. I'm definitely open to it. I'm not ready to just completely write it off, but it's definitely an eyebrow raise for sure.
Mm-hmm. The thing that worries me, is the way it's like he said the thing about having the actors in those roles. Like, I don't know if he means like the actors playing those characters, which I think is a terrible idea, or if he just means different actors in similar positions in the office. Because I think there's this could be a show that like they brought back every 10 years to sort of like comment on the way work is changing. Like I could see it being an interesting thing where like it's called The Office, but like, what is The Office now? And like, yeah, there are people working, like half the staff is remote, like, stuff like that, like weird things of like, or you could just have the one guy who's remote, who's always like in his underwear, eating cereal or whatever.
Business on the top, underwear on the bottom only.
Yeah, exactly. Like there are jokes you could make that are totally different that I could totally see fitting the style of that show, and like fitting into more today's Office. But like, I don't necessarily need this, but I also, I'm not going to discount it. But I do think like just make it in the same universe and bring back some actors. Like that's I just always want to go sequel rather than reboot.
Watch your semantics. Like if you mean that you want a new show in the Office universe, then say that. Don't say you're going to reboot a beloved franchise, The Office.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like choose your words a little better.
Yeah.
Reboot is such a triggering word these days.
The original show really worked, I think, too, because it was a commentary on work at the time. Like, it was a commentary on the absurdity of the Office. And people found it so relatable because there were characters that were like people that they worked with, and just like red tape, and just like the idea of working in an office with technology that would replace you, and just like commentary on just work and that lifestyle. And if a new show were to come along, it has to capture that. Like, it has to capture the absurdity of work now, which is way different than work 10 years ago.
Yeah. And even the idea of working for a corporation feels almost outdated these days because so much work today is gig work. And there's so much of that. Like, I could absolutely see a like new show, unrelated, totally new, and it's just called like Gig or something like that. And it's just about that life. And it's about like, running around doing like taking people in Ubers and picking up food and like the kind of weird situations you get into doing that, like that kind of stuff. It reminds me of what's that one where they did the catering company? Like that's very similar to The Office.
Party Down?
Yeah, Party Down is a very similar
Great
to The
show.
Office show, but it's just about like the catering world. Like I don't know that we need an Office show because the time of The Office is kind of gone and it's sort of like not really what's happening now. All right, well, up next, in a recent podcast interview, screenwriter David S. Goyer let loose some interesting info about the Christopher Nolan Batman films, stating that he vouched for Jake Gyllenhaal to portray the titular character of Bruce Wayne / Batman. Goyer continued to tantalize, saying that he is pretty sure there is test footage laying around somewhere of Gyllenhaal's audition in a Batman costume. We also could have had a Leonardo DiCaprio version of the Riddler if an unnamed Warner Brothers executive had gotten their way. The Dark Knight trilogy is often lauded as some of the best feature films of the Caped Crusader. Can we imagine anyone other than Christian Bale in Nolan's films?
Yeah. I wanted to tackle this story because not last weekend, but the weekend prior was Batman Day. So I actually had the opportunity. I went back and I caught Batman Begins and The Dark Knight in theaters. I wasn't able to squeeze in The Dark Knight Rises. I had to watch that one on Max after the fact, but I got to revisit the entire Nolan trilogy. And it was actually the first time I'd revisited The Dark Knight Rises since I saw it in theaters because I didn't enjoy it very much. But upon rewatch, it actually worked a lot better for me. And I think watching in such close proximity to the other films, it's still the weakest of the three by far and one of Nolan's worst films, but it's still solid. So all that being said, Jake Gyllenhaal, thinking about him, he was almost Spider-Man once upon a time, and then hearing this talk about him almost being Batman, and thinking about him as a performer and some of the roles he's taken on, I have no doubt in my mind that Jake Gyllenhaal has a great Batman and a great Bruce Wayne within him. I think he has that capability to toe that line and portray that duality and really go dark places with the character of Bruce Wayne particularly. But then I also think about, okay, what else was Jake Gyllenhaal doing around this time, around 2005, around 2008? And a movie that comes to mind is The Prince of Persia. So the fact that he made a choice like that and appeared in a movie like that, I think everything shook out the way that it was supposed to. As much as I love Jake Gyllenhaal as a performer, it probably wasn't the right time for him. He needed to mature a little bit more, learn a little bit more about the industry and which roles to take on and which ones not to take on. And that being said, there have been a lot of great Batman, and I love all of them for varying reasons. But outside of, the vocal performance of Kevin Conroy, Christian Bale is my Batman. Batman Begins is my favorite Batman film, and I can go on a tirade about why that is on another podcast. But no, I just thought this was really interesting. Batman is such he's so many people's favorite character. So whenever you want to have the conversation about fan casting or what would this person look like in the role, it's always going to be a fun and interesting conversation.
I have strong feelings about Christian Bale in those movies. I love Batman Begins, but after that, I feel like he's an empty suit. Like, I just feel like he is kind of walking through the Batman, like, he's just not the star of those second and third movies, really. Like, it feels like the villains are, which is often the case with Batman. So it kind of takes someone elevating that role, and I don't think he achieves that in the second and third installment. He's great. He works fine for the role, but I don't think he really brings much to the table. As for Jake Gyllenhaal, the Joker, man, should have been the Joker. Like, not in that era. Obviously, we got a great Joker for that era, but just face shape and I just think of him as like Donnie Darko doing like the weird dark stuff that he does in that movie, and I could so see him knocking the Joker out of the park. I don't really see Batman. I just don't see the square jawed justice guy. I don't know.
I don't either. I think he leans more villain, like you're saying. He even could have been a good Riddler. I think he's got the poise and the cachet to carry that off. He's intelligent. He kind of freaks me out for some reason. I don't know why all of a sudden in my later life at this point, I used to love Jake Gyllenhaal, and I'm like, I don't know, there's something about you that's just Nathan, my husband, was watching the new Guy Ritchie movie. He's in Covenant. And I looked around the corner. I was like, "What are you watching?" He's like, "That new Guy Ritchie movie." And I was like, "Oh, the one with Jake Gyllenhaal? Yeah, no, I'm good." I don't know. There's just something about him that puts me off now.
Have you seen Nightcrawler?
No.
Yeah, that was the one I was going to bring up.
Don't watch Nightcrawler.
Don't worry, I shan't. But this casting, like you're saying, Matt, doesn't make sense to me as Batman. But a villain in these Batman movies, I could definitely have seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nightcrawler's a great example, Scotty, and I was thinking about Zodiac, too. He's not really a villain in that movie, but it does kind of show his range as an actor to be able to tap into other things. So I think it could have worked. I mean, when I first saw it, I just kind of laughed because I thought it was funny to just picture him in that role, and I really want to see the test footage. But after some more thought, it kind of worked a little bit. But I do agree with you with The Dark Knight Rises, too, by the way. Rewatch, not so bad. Okay, people are shaking their fists right now listening to this. They're like, that movie sucks or whatever. It's not that bad. It's not as bad as you remember. Or at least for me, it wasn't as bad as I remember. I remember kind of not really liking it on first watch, but second watch kind of thinking okay, I can kind of come to the middle a little bit on this, and it kind of works on some levels.
Right. Is that the one with Bane?
It is.
Yes.
I don't know. I just don't love those movies, but I know that people really do, and that's great.
I mean, you can feel the pivot in that movie from what it was supposed to be to what it was. There was clearly supposed to be a plan where Heath Ledger was supposed to take on this very center role as the villain, that the Dark Knight was supposed to sort of introduce him and introduce that idea, and then the Dark Knight Rises was supposed to be the final confrontation between those two, and you can feel that was missing. And I think that it'll always be a movie of what could have been, I think, on some level because of that.
Sure.
You know what I find sort of funny about this? There's apparently a executive who wanted Leonardo DiCaprio to be the Riddler in these movies, and Leonardo through that era and continues to be such a awards hound. He's really he's always seeking that Oscar for a while there. I just imagine him being like, "No, I'm not gonna do a Batman movie. I'm gonna do some Oscar stuff." And then this is me, my fan fiction version of this, but him being like, "I'm not gonna do. I'm looking for my Oscar," and then Heath Ledger does his thing, and it's I missed it. I missed my opportunity.
But then that begs the question, not to take anything away from Heath Ledger's performance, but would he have won the Oscar had the tragic real life events not, taking place.
We'll
never know.
That's a tough question. We'll never
true.
know. And I do think that, I think he deserved the Oscar.
Sure, I agree.
But I do think that his death is what made the Academy pay attention.
Right.
I think I don't think saying that he got it because of his death is taking it away from his performance, that it deserved it. I think it was the best performance that year. It's amazing. But I think that that's the only reason they paid any attention to it. It would have just gotten the same way as always. They would have ignored the superhero movie,
Yeah, I'm glad you elaborated on my point, because that's a much better way of saying what I was trying to get across.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be right back with our Spotify poll and our lightning round. We got some good lightning round stories this week. I'm really, really excited about lightning round. And we'll be right back after this. All right, we're back, and it's time to talk about the Spotify poll for this week. It was, and I feel like there's a lot of discussion around this. We got to have Jay. We got to hash this out.
Yeah, no, it's true. We do.
Let me go get my popcorn. I'll be back.
Question is, what should Matt and Jay bet over the Aquaman 2 box office? And a lot of you had really good answers. DJ Triple says, loser has to talk about everything they hate for a whole episode. That's terrible.
You guys would tune in for that. I mean, come on now.
Yeah, you really want to hear that? I feel like
that'd be a long episode too. By the way, I hate a lot of stuff.
That's because you're a hater, Jay.
I'm a known hater.
Let the hate flow through you.
Good.
We should each put out a hate episode and just see how long they are.
It's just us in front of a mic for an hour and a half. Just a bonus episode.
It would just be you hating on things and me defending them. I'm such a puppy dog about everything. It has its merits, maybe it's good for this. All right. Ha said, loser has to dress as Aquaman for an episode every $10,000 they're off by.
Oh, so for the rest of the show's existence, because that would be $10,000. Seriously?
Maybe 10 million, might be a metric for that, but 10,000, yeah, that's
what they said.
6,000 episodes later, I'll still be in an Aquaman costume. It'll be
never have to
it'll be
think
tattered.
About what you have to wear.
I'll be in my 50s.
I love that so much. That old tattered Aquaman costume. You could refresh it, but why?
The trident only has one prong, so it's just a big fork now.
And listen, I'm a man who can commit to the bit, but even that, I mean, that's a little much. It's a little too much commitment to the bit.
It's just going to devolve into Mermaid Man from SpongeBob.
Okay, Jason Bailey says the loser gets an Aquaman-inspired tattoo. Ooh, how do you feel about that, Jay?
Forever.
Yeah, let me explain that to, everyone in my life.
It's either the costume or the tattoo.
Several of these, and I don't know which ones made it in and which ones didn't, but several of the ones I was reading either resulted in the destruction of my family or the end of my life. So
none of those are
it was things like watch Aquaman every day for 6,000 days or something. I was like, okay. And then other ones were well, I think this one's in there, but about drinking obscene amounts of alcohol in a tight window of time.
Yes.
Me to the hospital.
Yeah. That one is and I think it's not a bad inspiration here. But the Levu Doctor, Levu DR, whatever.
DVU Doctor. Yeah.
I don't know. Says the loser has to drink an entire bottle of Momoa's vodka during one of the shows, which
would result in me going to the hospital, by the way, because we record for about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
What if we get sponsored?
Does that make it worth it to you?
Yeah, I'm not the one who has to do it.
Man, dark, Haley, dark. El Nino says they bet their happiness. What does that mean? They just wrote their happiness.
I love that one.
The winner gets to be happy forevermore, and the loser has to live a life of depression or happiness.
These are some high stakes, people. Jen27 said $68.41. I don't know if that's a reference.
Wildly specific.
But I like how wildly specific it is.
I love that.
And then Maddie says, loser has to watch Thor the Dark World 52 times, which I like it as a reference to our last week. We talked about that podcast where they watched the same movie.
Oh, yeah.
The sequel 52 times. Pretty good.
That may be the worst one.
It's pretty bad.
Punishment of all of them.
It's pretty bad. Yeah, it would drive me nuts, man, watching the same movie. I'm not much of a rewatcher in general, and watching the same movie every week would drive me nuts. R.P. Collins, 1991, says, being the host on the other person's main podcast. That's pretty fun.
Okay.
That's pretty fun.
I can feel that.
Yeah, I just feel like that would be, me guesting on your podcast would just be bad for everyone. I just feel like you'd come on my cast, you'd enjoy it. If I came on your cast, it would be terrible for your show because I would have to prepare it, and terrible for me because I would have to prepare it. I feel like I would have to throw the game in that case. But you're welcome on the show anytime, and I'll happily come on yours as well. I used to do a show in a similar vein, and I was terrible at preparing it. That's that's why I stopped doing that show. I was terrible at preparing it. So hosting is a bad idea. And last one, I think is this you, Scotty? Jay Scotty?
It's me.
Loser has to eat a Carolina Reaper on air.
It'll just be like one of those episodes of what's that show, Hot Wings or whatever.
Hot
Ones. Yeah, you talk about doing a potential partnership. Let's hit up First We Feast. Yeah, let's make it happen.
I just said I have to sit here and like eat them in increasing difficulty while you ask me questions or whatever.
I like that you've accepted your fate, Jay. Like,
yeah, I mean, I shot it too low. I did shoot it too low. I listened to the episode the next day and I was like, I shot that so low. Like, I know it. I think we all agree across the board, like the movie's not going to do well because it has like a $200 million budget. I mean, come on. But like, sure. I think like, yeah, I definitely shot it too low, and I can recognize that now. I was in the heat of the moment, but I own it. I'm not going to back away from it. I own it.
Okay.
I think there's going to be a pocket of fans that go to see that movie just to spite you.
Yeah,
might go see it multiple times.
Like, I'm gonna get like emails or something about like ticket stubs, and it's like, yeah, what do you think about this? Seen Aquaman?
I saw it 10 times.
I rented out a private theater.
All those people that just hate Jay Sisson for some reason, like all the Multiverse News listeners who hate listening for Jay Sisson.
Are you a member of the Jay Sisson Hate Club?
All right, yeah, I like it.
Send me an invitation.
Let's get t-shirts made.
The next homecoming day at your school.
So here's one, and we can reformat the numbers on the bet. I'm okay with like you picking a number.
No,
that's going to get too much pushback. That's going to get too much pushback. Yeah, the people won't like it. The people won't like it.
Okay, well, what I was going to suggest was based on these was do you like to drink?
I mean, I can. Can
physically
been a while.
Of it.
Now listen, it's been a while since I've gone hard. It's been several years.
Well, no, I wasn't thinking about going hard. I was just thinking one of us has to buy the other one Momoa's vodka.
Okay, I can do that.
Like a bottle of Momoa's vodka. I looked it up. It's not pricey vodka.
You solicit all these suggestions and don't take a single one. You just run with your own. What was the point of the Spotify poll this week?
The people are shaking their fist. They want justice. It's like it's like in the arena, like when a gladiator's like getting ready to cut another guy's head off, and they just want blood. That's what people want.
If Jay Scotty really is upset, we can.
I'm not that upset.
How about this? The original bet that it won't beat Blue Beetle. It's opening. That was the original thing.
Right. So now, and to clarify that, I did say, which I'm not crazy about this claim, but I did say that would be over the course of its entire run, not just in its opening weekend.
Right.
So
okay.
I have to own that.
Okay. That's the only. Okay. So that can be the bet for the vodka, but how about you set a new number and we sort of we haggle over a new number and
Haley's mad. I can.
And that one will eat a Carolina Reaper for.
Oh.
Okay. So you want me to come to the table with a number like next week or what? Like, what are we doing?
I don't know. How you feel about right now?
I don't know if I'm prepared for
Hot
that.
seat.
I think I need to we're doing worldwide earnings
opening
throughout
weekend.
the course of its entire run.
How about this just opening weekend? You give me a number for opening weekend, and I'll do over or under.
Domestic or worldwide?
Domestic.
Domestic. See, I don't know. Domestic, sure.
So
you give me a number, and I'll pick if it's going to go over or under that.
Hold on.
Wasn't it like 25 million? Or
It was
something
not
like that?
good. Yeah.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Opening weekend domestic. It made 25.4 million.
Like
So
my recall.
I have to commit
numbers over here.
I have to commit that it'll be a pretty hefty bomb. So,
Well, this is a new bet. And also, my thought was you pick the number, I pick the over or under, or I can pick a number and you pick over or under. I don't know.
okay. Hold on. The Flash opening weekend.
All this research.
I just need to base it on something. 55 million. Okay. Let's go split it. Let's go with 40. That's still a bomb. 40's a bomb.
You're going 40 million?
Yeah, and it's opening weekend domestically.
And I will go over for that. So that keeps the bet the same. So you're going under 40 and I'm going over 40 for opening weekend. That's up through Sunday, like Thursday through Sunday or whatever.
Yes.
All right. I dig it.
And 40 is still a bomb. Like if it goes 40, like that's not good.
Yeah.
That's not good at all.
We have to take a good bite of a Carolina Reaper on the air.
Okay.
Oh my god.
All right.
I'm going to have to buy the Tums.
Yep. Same here. Same here.
My body ain't what it used to be.
I'll send you some Tums, Jay.
Okay, let's get into the lightning round. We're going to run through these as fast as we can tonight because we have been recording a while. You guys may not have caught it on the recorded version of this podcast, but we've had lots of technical difficulties this evening. So let's get into the lightning round. You guys know how this works. I'm going to say a story. You can call out your name to claim the story, and you will say your piece. And only one person gets to respond to each story, and then once per round, you get a rebuttal to that response. So here we go. First story. Amazon has announced that its Prime Video service will feature limited ads beginning in early 2024, and the ad tier will be the default option for Prime Video. The company says that the price of a regular Prime subscription won't rise next year, but users who want to continue watching Prime Video without commercials will have to pay an extra $2.99 per month.
Haley, don't we spend enough money with you as it is, Amazon? Could you take this one on the chin? Okay, thanks.
Hey, they're trying to make season 2 of the Rings of Power over here.
All right, Paramount has set a release date for its untitled sequel to the surprise horror hit Smile. It will be released October 18th, 2024. Paramount also set a date for the musical adaptation of Mean Girls, which will debut on January 12th, 2024. It previously was intended for Paramount Plus, but has been upgraded to a theatrical release. Matt, I really want to talk about this this here Mean Girls. I never saw Smile. I don't know about that. But for the Mean Girls, I find this very interesting because on first blush, taking something that was meant for streaming and moving it to theatrical release shows great confidence in that thing, right? It seems like, oh, this is great, but it's muddled by the fact that we've had the writer's strike. So I also know that they're looking for content to be released theatrically to spread out their content more. So is this a case of them just needing content? I also think there's an interesting wrinkle with Barbie. I think the Barbie audience and the Mean Girls audience is not the Mean Girls musical audience particularly. It's sort of an event thing. You could imagine people going and singing along. You can imagine people dressing up even. That movie has some great costumes that people love to wear and do TikToks in, or the original Mean Girls has costumes people still do TikToks in 20 years later or whatever. So I just see I could see this being an influence of Barbie. I could see it being an influence of the strike, or maybe it's just a great movie that's getting a lot of buzz. I don't know, but I find it interesting.
Scotty with a rebuttal. I just want to chime in and say I really appreciate the note you made about Barbie because I had not made that connection. But if you look at a poster for the Mean Girls musical, it could be very easily be confused with marketing for Barbie. It's all pink, various Mean Girls being represented by, performers of different ethnicities depending on where it was being performed in the country or the world for that matter. But I did want to speak to Smile a little bit just because you couldn't touch on it at all. I really liked Smile. It knew exactly what it wanted to be, and it wore its heart on its sleeve. Potential spoilers for Smile. I am curious about what a sequel would look like because Kevin Bacon's daughter, Sosie Bacon, this was kind of her breakout role in the first Smile, and the last thing I've seen her in was like Hyundai electric car commercials with her dad, so I don't know how that looks for her career trajectory at this point, but I'm not sure she's going to be a part of Smile 2, but I could be wrong.
Sounds like easy money to me.
Sounds like that wallet's getting a little light.
I didn't know that about Kevin Bacon's daughter being in it, but I think that's very interesting, seeing as he like had his first big role was like Nightmare on Elm Street, right?
Was it?
I believe so. He had a small role in Nightmare on Elm Street, and that was like his first like propelled thing.
Okay.
I believe either that or it was Friday the 13th. I may be getting
first thing I
backwards.
recognize him in is Animal House. Super young Kevin Bacon in Animal House.
Wow.
I think it's Friday the 13th. And I think that because I listened to Bill and Ash's Terror Theater, and I'm pretty sure they talk about it. Because doesn't he gets the arrow in his head or whatever, right?
I believe so. Yeah, he dies.
Yeah, yeah.
Johnny
So
Depp is Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay.
Ashley, I do you proud.
Good job. Good job. So we should all be listening to more Bill and Ashley's Terror Theater. I knew that he got an early start in a horror movie that didn't like, and then he went on to have a great career as like sort of the hero of all these other kind of like, Footloose and blah, blah. He is that Kevin Bacon. But like, yeah, of Guardians of the Galaxy
Hollow
fame.
Man. Ugh.
Oh yeah, that's true. That movie.
Groundbreaking visual effects, though.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Anyway, I was just saying, I think it's interesting that his daughter started in a horror movie too. Like, that's kind of an interesting little parallel.
When's she gonna get her trimmers?
Yeah, when's she gonna get her trimmers? Maybe Smile 2 will be her trimmers. Stampede. Lionsgate has released a new trailer for Hunger Games prequel film Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. The film is set to hit theaters on November 17th, despite the ongoing actor strike.
Haley?
Scotty?
I don't...
Go ahead.
Okay. I don't have a lot to say about this because I don't really care for the Hunger Games stuff. Only because I don't really like dystopia. It's not my thing. It's just not my bag. And that's what those books are. I don't know. Rachel Zegler's been getting a lot of bad press lately on the internet. And so maybe they're like, we'll just release it anyway. It's fine.
Maybe it's good that she can't be out there.
Yeah.
I don't even...
Sorry.
Yeah, let's push this through. Let's move this thing up. That actor strike might get resolved.
Yeah, let's get... That's terrible. That's
The
absolutely
internet
terrible.
has just been going after her.
All right. I didn't know that. All right.
Yeah.
During what is expected to be the worst weekend for theatrical ticket sales so far this year, Expendables 4 landed only $8.3 million in its opening weekend, representing the worst opening for a film in the franchise. It was narrowly bested by The Nun 2, which continues to reign at the September box office.
Scotty, this is the first weekend in a long time that I did not go at least see one movie in the theater. Having that, AMC A-list, I always feel compelled to see at least one new release. And, once upon a time, September and January referred to as the dump months for theatrical releases, the stuff that you didn't want to touch with a 6-foot stick or pole or whatever. And I kind of felt it this weekend. I was like, when the Equalizer 3 came out, I went back and watched all the Equalizers and caught that. Even when Fast X came out, even though I wasn't up to date on the Fast franchise, I was like, you know what? I will go see this thing. I'll have fun with it. And I did. Did not feel that way for the Expendables based on the trailer, the previous entries in the series, and the word of mouth. I was just not compelled in any way. And apparently I was not alone in that sentiment.
Gareth Edwards' hotly anticipated sci-fi epic The Creator has finally been unveiled for its first audience with a press screening taking place last week. Judging by the early social media reaction from journalists and critics, there is almost universal praise for the way The Creator looks and the stunning work of cinematographers Oren Sofer and Grieg Fraser. Many of those who saw the film last Monday described it as one of 2023's best films. The movie releases this week on September 29th.
Scotty,
Jay?
go for it, Jay.
Yeah, this movie is getting a ton of like really, really positive buzz in the vein of like this is going to be one of the best movies of the year. It's one of the best sci-fi films of the last decade. Like those are the types of things getting thrown out. You usually kind of have to take a little bit of grain of salt with press screenings, especially. They do tend to skew very positive because people who get invited to these press screenings, they want to get invited back, so they usually kind of pump the tires of the studio's films a little bit. But this one kind of feels different. Like it feels like people are really into the ideas of this. I think it is hitting at the right time, especially with the AI kind of being a core part of the story. But I was already intrigued by this, and I'm feeling like I want to see it when it comes out. Like it seems like it's going to be one of those movies you have to catch right now, and I think it's going to do a lot better numbers wise than maybe we thought a week ago because of all this positivity around it.
I'm gonna give a rebuttal. I just think this movie looks great. We talked about it when it had a trailer a while back, and I just think this movie looks really, really great. And hearing all this positive sentiment makes me really excited. And we have talked about here on the show possibly some of these. We have a big network here at the Stranded Panda, lots of shows, but there's some of these movies that fall through the cracks because they don't really fit any shows. And we've thought about just these important films that seem like they're going to be in the news a lot, dropping a review here in the feed. So we may actually review this weekend if we can get to it, because I'm excited, and so pay attention to your feed if you're wanting to watch it. We're probably gonna try to catch it and drop a review this coming weekend. So I'm really excited for this one. Looks great.
Quick tiny butt here. I just wanted to say, like the both of you, I'm very excited for this movie. Have been since I saw the first trailer. But I think also part of the reason I'm so excited to see it is that I don't have to see the trailer before other movies anymore, because it's a really good trailer, but it's like affecting me emotionally because there's this line in the trailer where the young girl who is the AI that John David Washington's character is kind of like shepherding and protecting, and she says, are you going to go to heaven? And he says, no, because I'm not a good person. She says, then we're the same. You're not going to heaven because you're not good, and I'm not going to heaven because I'm not a person. And just saying it now, I'm getting goosebumps, and it just like melts something and breaks something inside of me. Like I can't wait to experience that moment in the theater, but it's also like really sad.
Yeah, it's really, really sad. That's some like religious trauma stuff, like bubbling up in me. Like that's man. Yeah.
I have some breaking news about the writers' strike.
Breaking news
from the Hollywood Reporter, written tonight, that the strike will end 12:01 a.m. Pacific Time Wednesday, thanks to a vote from Guild leadership that officially authorized some 11,500 members to return to work. Tasks that for months were prohibited by strike rules can reconvene. This is allowing them to return to work during the ratification process, does not affect the membership's right to make a final determination on contract approval. And that ratification is set, like the tentative agreement stuff, is set for between October 2nd and 9th. So, interesting.
Okay.
Wow.
Head on.
They're kind of like going in good faith.
Ooh, anybody got a response for that lightning round breaking news?
Our first breaking news.
Our first breaking news.
In roughly 5 hours, the strike will officially be lifted.
Yeah. By the time you're all hearing this on the recorded version, this is it's over. And so they're at least over in the sense that they're going to be able to go back to work, and we'll start seeing some new content, some new we've all talked about that like whole of content. And it's just exciting to see the writers once they start spinning up. Then if they get the actors back in there too, like the whole machine starts working again. So the writers kind of need to be there first to get the content ready. So it's exciting. Up next in the lightning round, 500 Days of Summer and Amazing Spider-Man director Mark Webb is attached to direct Bermuda, a film about the Bermuda Triangle for Skydance. Skydance has been developing Bermuda for some time, with Spider-Man director Sam Raimi at one point attached, and filmmaker Scott Derrickson boarding in 2020 after exiting the Doctor Strange sequel. Chris Evans was attached to star in the iteration before Derrickson left the project. The film currently has no writers or other talent attached, and no timetable for development.
Haley? I love a conspiracy theory, and I love to watch stuff about the Bermuda Triangle, and like I've read a bunch about it, like in the sinking of the Titanic and all that nonsense. For all that I can't do dystopia, I love a conspiracy, so I think this sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
I wanted to chime in with a rebuttal and just say, like, Mark Webb, I really enjoyed 500 Days of Summer, and I think that's a movie that kind of like benefits from like rewatching at various stages of my life and seeing how my perspective on the characters change. I just think it's a really strong film for that regard. But with The Amazing Spider-Man, and specifically The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I feel like he really got lost in the like Hollywood machine and the blockbuster big budget shuffle. So the fact that he didn't let the poor reception of that film completely deter him, and he's still willing to, you know, take a chance, and studios are willing to take a chance on him on some of this like higher concept, bigger budget stuff is, you know, it's encouraging, because this is an industry that chews up and spits out a lot of people. So the fact that, you know, he's bouncing back, I like to see it.
I think this is an interesting story because like Mark Webb is now attached, and previously Sam Raimi was attached, and Scott Derrickson, who left Doctor Strange,
it'll make your head hurt.
It feels like
to connect this.
It feels very interesting. Like it feels like Bermuda is going to have a Marvel tone. Like it feels like they're going for like a sort of an action adventure type vibe because of the way those three like. Or although I don't know about Mark Webb, but Scott Derrickson and Sam Raimi have very horror tones as well.
Right.
So, but you know, it's just interesting to see passing from one Spider-Man director to another, and someone else who's directing something that was another very Spider-Man-ish tone, even though it wasn't. Yeah, it's just interesting
with
to see how that
Chris,
happened.
with Chris Evans too.
Yeah, with Chris Evans. So it just seems like very Marvel adjacent. Okay, Adult Swim has revealed the season 7 trailer for Rick and Morty, featuring the voice actors replacing co-creator Justin Roiland, who was dismissed from the show due to misconduct allegations. In an unusual move, the network is keeping the names of the new voice talent confidential until the show's season premiere. Matt, I didn't like them. I thought I heard people before I watched it. I heard people talking about how perfect the recreations were, and I just don't think so. I don't think they're terrible. I say I don't like them. The truth is, I just think I can really tell, like especially with Morty. Less so with Rick, but Morty to me does not sound like Morty. And so, you know, that's weird. It's weird after all these years and have these characters that I love very much being recast like that.
Yeah. I was wondering how you guys would react to that, because for me, like I didn't notice much of a difference. I wasn't really nitpicking it like super close, but for me, like I wasn't really pulled out, you know. Like Scotty and I sat down and talked about Solar Opposites, which did the Roiland recast, but they went in the opposite direction. Right. They got a completely different voice of a guy to replace the voice of a character. And we talked about how we eventually got there, but it took me at least a couple episodes to get there. Like there was a lot of like, it would pull me out. I never got there in the intro, because that character reads the intro statement, and I never got there where I was like, felt like that was the intro to that show. But eventually by the end I felt it. But with this, I don't know, I just felt like I kind of jumped right in. But maybe over the course of a season or a whole episode or whatever, it'll be a little bit more standout. But yeah, I didn't really feel like it was too much different for me, at least.
Cool. Despite facing intense backlash for denigrating comic book films back in 2019, director Martin Scorsese is back at it again in his recent profile for GQ, referring to comic book movies as manufactured content rather than cinema, among comparisons to AI-generated content.
Scotty, as much as I don't like and disagree with what Scorsese is saying here, on the one hand, I kind of have to respect just like the cojones and the stick-to-itiveness. Like back in 2019, he said this, and he's like, I don't care about the backlash. You know what? I'm pushing 90 years old, and I'm still doing this. I've watched the evolution of Hollywood. I saw, you know, how the studios transition from the crime noir films of the 70s and how blockbusters basically took over. So I think it's one of those arenas where two things can be true at the same time. Yes, you can have, you know, this very precious cinema that like pushes the art form forward and develops new techniques, but you really can't take away from what these big blockbuster movies are doing in terms of like pouring the money into developing similar technology, or just building that spectacle, or giving a lot of these performers, you know, that chance to build up that cachet and have the opportunity to go and do smaller indie films. So I think he needs to broaden his horizons and his perspective a little bit, but I still really like Martin Scorsese as a filmmaker, and I really look forward to Killers of the Flower Moon.
Big talk from a guy who's doing a huge blockbuster with huge stars in it that's 3.5 hours long.
True.
The end.
I also think, like, yeah, you talked about how Scorsese's like, oh, he kind of brave to just stick to his guns. Also, he just wants to me, it's like he's pushing the button that knows he's going to get him in the news. Mm-hmm. Like, he's just saying, like, the thing that is going to get Scorsese talked about on a bunch of sites that wouldn't be talking about Killers of the Flower Moon. They're now going to talk about it and then go, by the way, he has his movie come out this week, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do wonder, like, what the relationship of his publicist is to him, because I'm sure that either they're telling people, like, don't ask him about comic book movies, or they're telling Martin Scorsese, like, can you please not talk about comic book movies, because when you did it last time, it turned into a whole thing or whatever. But he's like, no, I'm Martin Scorsese, I'll do whatever I want. But yeah, I mean, I think like, I don't know, I can kind of exist in the middle where, like, I'm not mad at, kind of like what you were saying, Scotty, like, right. I'm not mad at Martin Scorsese, like, I like his movies, I'll still see his movies. I can not agree with what he's saying and still appreciate him as a filmmaker and move on.
For sure.
So it's kind of one of those middle ground things where it's like, it's not going to ruin my day any, but he's very passionate about it for sure.
The mistake he's going to make, though, that he's already making, is people are tired of hearing it.
Oh, for sure.
And so he's going to push people, because I'm the same way. I'm super excited to see Killers of the Flower Moon, but he's pushing people the other way now, because people were at first going to be like, oh yeah, you know, he's got a point, makes sense, especially those wanting to say, like, the MCU is not doing as well. And now it's like, okay, we get it, Martin. You don't like superhero movies. You know, it's like the horse is dead.
The full quote too, he said that we need to fight back against comic book movies. That was a direct quote in there too, which is very strong language.
Yeah, for sure. That feels like very intentionally trying to get attention to me.
Yeah.
I do think that is an element of it, just to, you know, bring it full circle. I agree with everything that's been brought up, but at the same time, it reeks of, like, the old man, like, get off my lawn. Like, I don't think he'd be saying these things if he didn't actually believe it, but...
What's the Simpsons headline, old man yells at cloud or whatever? It's kind of like,
yeah, right.
Like that.
You can also completely disagree with him that the comic book movies are valueless, which is what he seems to think, and still understand what he's saying. Like,
sure.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
From his perspective, it has no value, but from my perspective, like, I see what he's saying, that, like, it's a different kind of movie. It serves a different function in our society, and it serves a different function in the art form, like you were talking about, Scotty. And it's just like, you know, there's room for both, and the kind of hate. I think the whole, like, Barbenheimer thing, I think the fact that Chris Nolan didn't really push back, like, publicly was kind of a classy move. Just, like, let it happen. Like, he didn't, like, encourage it, but he just kind of let it happen. Yeah. Okay, speaking of Scorsese, tickets for his upcoming Killers of the Flower Moon went on sale Monday, with early projections suggesting it may perform similarly to Oppenheimer at the box office. If true, that won't be the only thing that the flicks have in common, as the upcoming historical epic has a confirmed whopping runtime of 3 hours and 26 minutes.
Haley, the only thing I'm not loving so far about the marketing for Killers is the focus on Leo DiCaprio. That's not what the story is about.
Hey, have we forgotten one of the earliest stories of Multiverse news, that Martin Scorsese is developing a film actively about Jesus? Have we forgotten about that?
Yes, we have.
I forgot. That's right. Yep.
Just want to bring that back to the forefront, because when Leo DiCaprio is playing Jesus, we'll revisit this.
Oh, no.
I do think this film will do well. It's a well-known story at this point. A lot of people have read the book, and so I think there's Oppenheimer-like buzz for sure.
Cool. The Curse, an A24 and Showtime genre-bending home renovation series starring Emma Stone and Nathan Fielder, is set to premiere on Paramount Plus November 10th, while debuting on Showtime November 12th. The series also stars Benny Safdie, who is a co-creator alongside Fielder. Matt.
Go for it.
We know who's talking about this.
Yeah, I just love Nathan Fielder. His show, Nathan For You, is amazing.
So good.
And The Rehearsal, more recently, amazing. And, like, it's just such a weird... He's so good at making such weird, self-referential, interesting content. And this... It still looks like it's set up as a horror series, and it's called it's like a home renovation thing. Like... that just sounds amazing. And it's Emma Stone and him. Like, I don't know what it's about. Also, there's not a trailer for this, right?
No.
I looked and I couldn't find one.
Yeah.
I found multiple fan-made ones and it pissed me off. I was like halfway through, I'm like, no, these are shots from other movies. I know it. But no, I love Nathan Fielder. Was such an interesting creator making stuff that is different from anyone else. And I am just going to be there to watch this the day it drops, for sure.
I can only echo those sentiments. You give me A24, you give me Emma Stone, and then the cherry on top, that is Nathan Fielder. I don't need to know anything else about this. I am 100% on board and very excited for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's brilliant. I mean, he's absolutely brilliant. Like, Nathan For You is the funniest comedy I've ever seen. Like, I don't think I would put a comedy funnier than Nathan For You.
It's hilarious.
Like the concepts and like the execution of the concepts is just on this level of understanding of humor that other people are not doing. And then the rehearsal starts that way and then takes such a left turn that affects you in an emotional way. Like, by the end, I was like, I have no clue how to feel. Like, I was like, this is one of the most interesting things I've ever watched. So I'm all down for anything he wants to do. I'll watch it.
Yeah.
I appreciated the rehearsal, but I have to imagine you as a parent, how that experience, some of those episodes, how that must have
By
felt.
the end, I was like, I'm not sure if I should be laughing or crying. I mean, it was just
Well, and he kind of did that with Nathan For You too. The final episode, they did like a weird 2-hour episode that tried to do the same thing, where it did the rehearsal trick of starting like Nathan For You and sort of morphing into an emotional experience at the end. And it's like, I found myself emotional at the end of the very last episode. I was like, what is happening right now? And that was weird because it was like 3 seasons and then it ended that way. Both shows amazing. If you don't know Nathan Fielder, if you don't know those 2 shows, please check them out and get on our level. Get on the curse. We're definitely gonna talk about this when it comes out. All right. Well, guys, that is all for Multiverse news. We are going to be back very soon with more. We're probably going to be back this weekend with a Multiverse review. I'm pretty excited about that. Discussing the creator. So, Jay Scotty, tell them where they can find you online.
Yeah, please check out Animation Deliberation. It's the podcast that takes action, animation, and cartoons seriously, but not too seriously. We have Spy Family making its season 2 debut in just a couple of weeks here. And then the Hulu revival of Futurama just aired its first 10 episodes. It's going on a little bit of a break before the second half of the season. And I actually just recorded an episode doing some quick takes on what I thought of that, especially the last 2 episodes, episode 9 and 10, were like some of the best episodes of Futurama ever. So if you're a fan of any of that stuff, check out Animation Deliberation wherever you get your podcast.
That's awesome. Jay Sisson, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, you can find me at Commute the Podcast, where me and my co-host try to teach you 3 interesting things on your way to work for about 20 minutes, the length of an average commute. So come learn something new with us. Which, by the way, I have to ask your opinion. How old is too old to trick or treat? What's your cutoff?
Ooh, I feel like 13 to 14, that range.
Yeah, 14 feels right.
I'm a softie.
One of our segments was about an ordinance that some cities have put in place that caps it at 12. All right, so like makes it a crime to trick or treat over 12.
That is weird.
Interesting
12.
conversations
Dang.
there.
If I got more kids coming to my house, I'd say older, but I don't care how old they are.
I feel like 12 is the upper limit, but like I'm not going to get mad at a kid who's 13. You know what I mean? Like it's
but what if they don't have a costume on? If they show up without a costume, I'm like, get off my lawn, you know?
Yeah, the older they are without a costume. You got to at least
have a costume on.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm so much cooler than you guys.
Soft. You're soft.
I am soft.
I'm not above just saying.
Get rid of this candy.
Yeah, get a job and buy your own candy. You're 16.
The economy.
The economy. Haley, tell them where they can find your soft self online.
My soft heart's over at Source Pages with Brian B. Klein. If you like character and story background, that's what we do. We dive into source material. So this next week, we'll be talking Loki.
Have you guys been talking much Ahsoka?
Yeah, we have done several. Well, we did 2 Ahsoka primer eps, and then we're talking about probably doing a couple of follow-ups once the show is completely done.
Nice. I need to come.
But Brian and I are talking about Ahsoka.
Yeah, I figured, and I love Ahsoka, and I've been watching way too many like lore videos and stuff, but to get extra background, even though I watched Rebels, so I'm gonna have to come listen to y'all's episodes on Ahsoka for sure.
Figured out who Marok was.
I heard all the theories, and I thought they were all BS.
He was Ralph Boner 2.0.
Yeah.
I thought
He
you'd been
wasn't
Ralph
even.
Bonered enough times, you would have learned your lesson.
Listen, Marok was like just not a thing. Like everyone was saying he was a thing, and I was like, no, it's just a guy with a lightsaber, guys. It's just an Inquisitor. Like let him
Whatever,
have
Matt. Don't try to watch all the videos if you aren't gonna get on the hype train. Part of the fun of being a Star Wars fan is being ridiculous.
See, that's not me though. I'm the guy who's like, no, it's not Mephisto. Like, guys, calm down. It's not Mephisto. Like, everybody picks these very specific things and gets really on board with
Destroyer.
it. Star Killer, yeah. Star Killer. Did I just correct you on a Star Wars thing?
No, you did not.
Wait, what did you say? What Star Destroyer are you talking about?
I said get off my Star Destroyer.
Oh.
Like get off my lawn.
Everyone was saying Marok was Star Killer, so I thought you were meaning Star Killer.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, I heard what you said.
My bad. I'll keep trying. I'm going to keep finding a place to correct you on a Star Wars thing.
That wasn't the correction you were looking for.
Nice one, Steve.
All right. Peace, everybody.
You stay classy, Multiverse.